So do past lives affect our health, how we think, and what we believe? Coming up right after this. Good afternoon, this is Lucky Links. I'm going to share a case on this particular subject, like I did with the last video on a client's canine friend. At the same time that was going on, I've actually been personally dealing with some things that have come up. Now, as a student, it's a very interesting thing because you deal with clients all the time, and you learn all these things, and you learn a lot about people, and you learn a lot about what's really going on, which is really, when I was a kid, the number one thing I always asked was, I want to find a deeper understanding. I wanted so badly to understand why we were here, what was going on, what was really at the base of everything. And boy, did I get my wish. Sometimes though, when you're working with clients as a student, you're still dealing with your own stuff, and I don't talk about that a lot, but I'm being encouraged, let's say, to put this out here, because I think every time I do a video like this, people react very strongly. A few months back, I did a video about someone who was running around on all my videos calling me fat. And what I realized at the time was it was a reflection of something that I think was also going on inside of me. Because I think that I was actually on some level telling myself the same thing, which I find interesting, that the world around us kind of acts like a mirror. And in so doing, I was actually pushing myself very hard at the gym, and mercilessly, and I ended up with a shoulder injury. And my partner's a massage therapist, and he was trying to help me through the injury, and he was trying to work me through it, and we were doing foam rolling, he was doing massage, we were doing all sorts of things, and the injury got worse. It kept getting worse. So I actually finally went to my master, His Holiness Padma Gampa Rinpoche, and I said, hey, Your Holiness, what should I do? Should I ice it? Should I use ice, or should I use heat, or should I use both? And he suggested using energy, which we do. I mean, we do that in Tibetan Bon. We use energy, and it's not. I don't want to confuse things here. It's not like Reiki, and I don't know if I've ever said this before, but when I was younger, I spent a good couple of $1,000s going through the Reiki stuff all the way to Reiki Master, and the one thing that it taught me was, personally, it did not have the answers that I was looking for. I was looking for more than it could give me. So it wasn't like that. I did make some discoveries though when I did go through that. I think it actually helped lead me to the path of Bon. But it didn't personally answer the questions that I had, and it didn't give me the abilities that I was looking to gain. But he did suggest that we use energy, and in a specific way that we do in Tibetan Bon, and he instructed how to do it, and we were doing it, and I was noticing that it was getting better and then getting worse, and so the energy was affecting it. So he was suggesting there was much more to this than the fact that I'd hurt my arm, and it kept developing in layers. I'd do something, and then it would get worse, or something else would come out, and then I kept asking His Holiness, and it's like, hey, this isn't working, it's getting worse. What's this? What's going on with this? And I was getting very frustrated, and he walked me through several layers of working through things, and I was just getting more and more frustrated about things, and then finally everything sort of came to this sort of head, and that's when he suggested I look into my past lives. Now, I've done a lot of past life work with people in hypnosis, past life regressions, and stuff like that. And I've seen past life stuff come through in people's readings. And you guys the one I did on the client and her canine friend, that was a very interesting and fascinating case. Well, something came out here at the same time that it was like right after I started doing this past life stuff that my client came to me and asked me to look into her furry friend, and I was like, oh, this is interesting because past life stuff's coming up a lot right now. So I did. I looked into my own past life stuff, and all of this stuff emerged. Not only did it emerge and tell me what habits were connected, but it also revealed what realm that it came from. So as students, we are taught that there's 6 realms that we can incarnate in, and it showed me very clearly which one of the realms was at play. And I was kind of blown away, and I was extremely shocked. And over the last week, all of this stuff has been surfacing in relation to all of that, which it seems to me that at the time that this stuff was going on, where someone was calling me fat and I was pushing myself, I was not speaking very kindly to myself. There was a whole lot of stuff going on, and it surfaced. It came out as an injury. Which suggests some things, that the injuries and the sicknesses that we have that come up. Now, I'm not saying that. I mean, okay, maybe we eat lots of, we sit around eating lots of horrible food for us and we get sick. But what's the habit that leads us to sitting around eating the horrible food? Is what I'm saying. It's like we come in with habits, like the kid who can play instruments. She can play the violin beautifully, and people are like, where did she learn that? I mean, we all have habits we come in with, and that was the thing I think that started me as a kid looking. I was like, where does this stuff all come from? I'd been in relationships where I went, I've done this before. I know I've done this before. That's what really started me looking and searching. And why I started looking in the New Age stuff, because at least they were talking about it. And then the Buddhists were talking about it. There were different groups that were talking about it. And I said, I know that this is not the first time I'm here. Well, now all this stuff is coming out in relation to this. So I've been working through this stuff for the last week. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is to let all of you guys who are waiting for your charts know that I took a week off, because I've had to deal with all of this stuff that's been coming out, and it's been huge, it's been massive, and the realizations that have come out of this past life stuff and these habits, and this is what we call karma, our karmic habits. Now, I can't speak for anyone else. Again, I'm still a student, I'm not a master, but I can speak for myself. This stuff is extraordinarily powerful. The karmic habits that I have brought in from a past life have affected every aspect of my life. And when this stuff all came out and I started to look at it for what it was, every single habit in my life that gave me a challenge or a problem or that I never understood suddenly became, I swear, it's like every single habit. I'm like, why did I do that? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? All the whys have been coming out all week. And as all the whys have been coming out all week, and I've been working through it with my Tibetan Bon practices and mantras and other things as His Holiness have suggested I do, the shoulder has actually started to improve tremendously. And there's other stuff going on too, astrologically, and I've talked about this with there being a lot of metal and everything freezing up. Well, the shoulder was actually frozen, and like I went to reach something on the counter from the cabinet the other day, and even now I'm doing it. I couldn't lift my arm like this a couple of weeks ago without excruciating pain and it being frozen. I just gotta say, guys, that there is a line from Hamlet that I just think sums things up beautifully. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, or there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. And we have just been lied to about our health. We have been lied to about we've been lied to about everything. And if I wasn't sure of this stuff before, I mean, the stuff that I'm seeing now. And ironically, I'm working on a client's chart right now, and this client's past life stuff is all coming out in her I Ching section, and I'm going, oh my gosh. And I'm looking at like one client's relationship with her dog, in one client and the canine friend's past life stuff, I'm looking at my own past life stuff and how it's actually affecting an injury, and the injury is getting better. And then I'm looking at another client's stuff right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what's causing the problems, and this is what came in with the client. We have been, I'm just going to tell you from my experience as a student, the things that we have been taught in the West about karma and past lives, it's just, and the things that we've been taught, I just, from my own experience, I got to say, there's a lot of BS that we've been taught, and there is something much more profound going on. And, if I'd have gone to a doctor, which I refused to do, they would have operated. They would have said, we got to operate on this. They never would. And by the way, there was something happening when I was doing Reiki. I did have a really powerful experience back then. When I was doing Reiki, the person I was with at the time had side pains, and I was doing that stuff. I don't believe that's everything that was going on, but I was doing energy stuff, and it stopped for about 3 weeks, and then it came back, and it was like appendicitis. And when we took him to the doctor, I said, I think it's appendicitis. And they're like, there's no way. If he had it 3 weeks ago, appendicitis doesn't go away. And I was like, well, I did something. He's like, well, what did you do? And I told him, and he looked at me like I was a nut job. We've been lied to about what's going on with our health, what's going on with our bodies, what's going on. And the more deeply I gain access to Tibetan Bon cosmology and really what's going on with our astrology, and really what's going on with karma, I just, there are answers. That's all I'm going to say. So for me now, it was funny because of all the years I've done past life regressions and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, well, past lives affect you, yes. Now I have had one of the deepest, most profound experiences with how the life that I had in that particular realm has colored everything in this life. And every single one of my habits, and some of them that were good and some of them that I really detested in myself. And I was like, I just want to get rid of this habit. I had no idea why I was doing this habit. And now I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, there was a reason why I'm doing this habit that I don't even particularly like in myself, but I keep doing it. But there was a reason. So I took the week off. I've been dealing with this. I'm going back to my astrology charts on Monday. I've needed to work through this, and I appreciate all of you who have been patient. So thank you very much. And I wanted to put this out there, just maybe to get people thinking from my experience. And you can, whatever your own experience is, it's valid. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm not discouraging anyone's experience. I'm just saying from my own experience, the past life stuff that's coming out, the karma, wow, the power of karma, the power of past lives. I have had one of the most profound experiences in my life. I was never a believer in pray and it'll fix it, because I knew too much about the stories of myths and mythology and how fickle the gods could be, and that they would support you at one moment, and there's reasons for that, and I'm not judging that either, but it always occurred to me that there had to be something that we could do personally to change our habits, to change our lives, to change our health, to change all of it. I personally believe that we have to be the ones who fix it all in ourselves, and no one else can. And all the problems that are going on in the world right now, if people started fixing themselves, really deeply, profoundly fixing themselves, all of this stuff that's purifying humanity right now would lift. But it's a hard pill to swallow, that you're really responsible. But I got to tell you, all the way back a few months ago when I did that video on someone calling me fat, the fact that someone called me fat was my own habits. The fact that I actually did let it hit me deeply, even though I was like, no, I'm okay with this. No, I did let it affect me to the point that it was pushing me until I hurt myself. And the funny thing is, after all of this, I actually don't. I feel much better about all of that in relation to myself and my own appearance and my own health and my own And now I think I have some really amazing tools to take my understanding of my own health and well-being even further. But the funny thing is that I had done a whole lot of, I was doing all these crystal mirror, an advanced version of the crystal mirror. The crystal mirror I do for clients, it's a gazing, I look into a person's life. I kept looking into my own crystal mirrors, and I kept seeing what was coming in relation to this health thing. And I was like, oh my God, this just looks like it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And everything's playing out astrologically and in the crystal mirror as though the pain would get worse. And yet, once I started looking at the source, it all started to get better and is getting better, which further reinforces the idea that what is going on in humanity right now is purification. And this was purification because it was trying to purify actually how I speak to myself and that karma that I brought over from that life that's keeping me from actually moving towards enlightenment. And personally, I'm working at this time to take everything that comes at me and help me move towards enlightenment, which is my goal. And in the old sense, and there's a very specific criteria that we in Tibetan Bon must demonstrate to achieve enlightenment. So that's my experience. There is so much. There is so much more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. Man, if I hadn't said that before, I'm going to say it now. And what things like this teach you is when people come at you and they try to like say, well, this is how it is, and you've had these experiences, you're like, well, that's your experience, that's not mine. But it sure helps you to understand that there are ways and processes. And the one thing that I love about the Tibetan Bon stuff is that there is a process. You have to work. It didn't just clear up on its own. I didn't just say, hey, God's come and please and help heal it. And although you know, I did, you know, with some mantra, but it's really about, you have to heal yourself, and there are ways to heal yourself, and there may be a past life connection, and there may be something more to it. But anyway, so that's it. That's my experience, and thank you to everyone for being patient about that stuff. But that's what's been going on, and that's my recounting of the situation as a student. If you guys would like to get a reading from me, a tarot reading or a crystal mirror, which we can look at, you can look into some really deep stuff in the crystal mirror. You can also set things into the crystal mirror using, I can use Tibetan Bon processes to set things in motion in the crystal mirror, create changes. We could do your cosmology, your full cosmology, or just the astrology. Let's see what's going on right now. It's all, there's so much possibility, and we can see what the oracles say and what the elements and everything show are going on in your life. If you'd like to get a readings or your chart done or your crystal mirror, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. And if you would like to take a class in how to read the tarot, or how to read the Lenormand, how to read Mexican Loteria, how to read playing cards, or how to read, what else do I got? Crystal ball, any of those, contact me, 779-302-8009. So, when you're baffled by something and you don't know what it is, it might just be your habit. And it might be a habit that you've carried with you for a very long time, for many, many lives. And the way out is to get to the root of the habit. And I think what's interesting is right now in society, humanity is finding out what their habits are, and if they want to make it through all the changes that are coming, they are going to have to get to the root of their habits themselves and say, where does this come from and why? And once they do, then things will start to change.